are in chapter 5. It says of Samuel Aleph, chapter 5, page 44. Uplishtim lakhu el Aron ha'elokim. Remember the in the last episode we had, if you will, the Plishtim had captured the Aron. By the way, since this didn't record last week, I'll just give the really fast recap. Last week, something happened, so I don't know why it didn't record, but I'm hoping it's recording this week. So, last week, what happened was the Philistines had encamped and ready to battle against the Jews. And so what happened was when the Philistines saw the Aron coming in to the Jewish camp, and they heard the shouts of jubilation from the Jews, they said, "What secret weapon have the Jews brought in?" Oh, it must be that so now they knew that the Aron was there. They said, "Oh, if that's the case, God is fighting for them. If the same God that fought against the Egyptians, therefore we've lost." They had a rallying call amongst their people saying, "Are we men or are we mice?" Remember that? Are we men or are we mice? If we just surrender, then we're going to be slaves to the Jews, and it'll be reversing the roles. Instead of them serving us, we'll serve them. Let's rather fight like men, and if they defeat us, they know that they fought men and not servants, and then we can always rebel against them too. So that was where they're coming from. What happened was they went to battle, and they won. They won against all the odds. And Pinchas, the ark was captured. Pinchas and Hophni were killed, and along with, I believe, 30,000 men, if I remember the numbers correctly. Mm-hmm. So now we're at the next part. Upalishtim lachu et Aron ha'elokim. So the Plishtim took the ark of Hashem, vayavu'uhu, and they brought it from Even Ezer to Ashdod. Remember, Ashdod, the hay at the end is taking the place of the lamed at the beginning, so toward Ashdod or to Ashdod. And the Malbim, where's the Malbim on this? Here it goes. Oh, it starts only with bait. Okay, fine. Vayichu Plishtim et Aron Elokim. So again, the Plishtim took the Aron of Hashem v'yavo oto Beit Dagon, and they brought the Aron to Beit Dagon, the house of Dagon. Dagon was the name of their god. It was a fish. It was a fish taught the what? Dog. Yeah, dog. But I'm saying the body. Somebody will explain this. I remember it's a fish head. I'm telling with that. It's the body of a fish, so they worshipped the fish. V'tzigu oto, and they put the Aron right in front of, I guess, or actually Eitzel Dagon, near Dagon. They said it beside, so they translated it, said beside Dagon. So what happens here? He said, the Malbim explains, Vayichu Misham Lakhuhu, they took it from Ashdod, Vayaviu Oto El Beit Dagon, and they brought it to, again, their church, or whatever you want to call this, base of Avodah Zarah. Idol worshippers. Church is, Bill, let me ask you, church is just a name for a house of worship, or is that only for Christianity? Because I don't want to insult all the Christians out there.
I think it's just in Christianity.
Just because you call it mosque and so on. So okay, fine. So how would you say a place? You say a place of worship. You don't say the place of the idolaters. A temple, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
The temple. Okay,
Temple
good.
Generic.
The temple is generic. Okay, I want the generic. I don't want people yelling at me.
Yeah.
Again, I have.
Is the church Greek or Latin for that?
I think it comes from ecclesiastical.
Okay.
You know, then you get words like eglise and ecclesia.
Okay, so temple. We'll keep it with the temple. Yep. Fine. So they brought it to the temple of Dagon, and because they considered ki Dagon Eloheim, Dagon was their god, Netzach, and they considered that Dagon, their god, Netzach Yishal, that he was victorious, so Dagon beat the Jewish God. That's what they thought. So of Midrash Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kavdu, so in the Midrash of Rabbi Yochanan, they said they honored Dagon. They honored it, mean the ark. Well, how they honored the ark? Because I just lost it. Amrulo Zeh Eloha, Zeh Eloka. They said this one's a god and this one's a god. So Yavo Eloha Yishra Eitzel Eloha. So let this god come and sit and be with the next god. Let them have a convention. Okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Levi Amar Kach Yesacharo, and Rabbi Shimon ben Levi said this was the reward. And so he's, in other words, why were they punished for this? Because they're going to say this guy's a god and this guy is a god, so the gods sit together. So what's the punishment for? They shouldn't be punished. It's showing respect. So he says, no, what happened was, they were saying this one was the victor, this one was the conquered. So let the conquered come and serve the conqueror. For that reason they were punished. In other words, what they're looking at is why we're about to find out that the policemen are going to be punished. So the question is why? If they were honoring the Aaron by saying this is a god, this is a god, so that's honorable. What are you punishing me for? You're showing respect. On the other hand, if you say, no, that really, why am I putting the Aaron next to Dagon? To say that Dagon is the victor and that the Aaron is the conquered. At that point, now it's insulting. Understand? Yeah? So okay, what happens is Kimu Ashdodim Mimacharat. So the Ashdodim, people of Ashdod, woke up the next morning, early in the morning, the next day. And behold, Dagon had fallen on his face. So the fish god fell on his face. Like a fish out of water. Okay. Lifnei Aaron Hashem, but it was worse. It fell in front of the Aaron of Hashem. Now I want you to remember, it was originally beside. I have one here, one here.
Yeah.
And suddenly the Dagon moves, and now it falls in front of the. So it moved down. And that's what it says, Lifnei Aaron Hashem. So it fell in front of the Aaron Hashem as if it was bowing. So what happens? Vayikhu Dagon. They took Dagon, Vayashivo told them, come, and they returned it to its place. Remember, it is only an idol. Whether or not they actually believe that the stone or whatever they made was actually...
That must have been something pretty heavy.
Well, I'm saying, my point is, whether they believed that the stone was just a manifestation of a god or a god itself, that would be always a question to an idolater. When you see an idolater, you have to ask that, right?
It would be what that particular people consider it to be, in other words.
Right. I mean, you have to ask the idolater, do you consider that piece of stone that you made yesterday to be a god? Is it imbued with a god, or is it symbolic of a god? Exactly what is it? Yeah. So, that is always a question. In other words, when people, in the movies, we always see people, I'm going to Christian things when you see them with the iconology? Iconography, thank you. Iconography, when they see one of the icons here, and they're holding whatever they have, the Virgin Mother, whatever they have, and they're praying and they're holding it. So the question you have to ask is, you believe that God, that thing you're holding in your hand, has power? Do you believe the beads have power? I don't know what all these symbolisms are, but do you believe that's what gives you the power, or is it that you're using that as a channel to get to something else? I'm guessing most people would say it's a channel to get to something else. I'm hoping they would say that.
Yeah.
But again, that's what you have to wonder. Same thing with the cross in the church. Do you see that cross in the church with Jesus on the church or not, or just the cross in general? Do you see that as a symbol, or do you see that as something you're praying to? Now, for somebody like me, I would say you're praying to that thing. You're bowing to that. You're talking to that. You're having a conversation, as compared to nothing's in the room. Well, obviously at that point I'm speaking to God, because there's nothing there to focus on.
It would almost be like the same thing as a visitor would come to synagogue and never been before, and when we take the Torah out and carry around, people are touching and kissing and so forth, they might ask the same question.
They could. And while you're kissing that, it's only a book. You're right, it's a book. But there already, we're not praying to the book. We're praying toward that, but we're not praying to the book. In other words, when the book comes out, we're showing love for it.
For what's contained.
For what's in, right. So for what's in it, we're showing love. But we're not holding in the hand when we're praying and, saying, okay, you gotta help me.
Yeah.
You're not doing that. So that would be the practical difference. Although there are some, when I was in Mountain, that was one of the arguments that a woman presented to me, that we should not carry the Torah around. She was a convert herself, and that was her, she said, it's like the Christians, so whether you carry it around. I said, so don't kiss it. I can't tell you. It has to be carried from point A to point B. So somebody want to kiss on the way over. Okay, fine. It's but that you're right. I mean, certainly symbols could be misunderstood, which is why I'm saying it would be curious to know of the worshippers of Dagon, since they're moving their god. Are you doing because you see that as a god, and therefore you're putting it back, or it's just a symbol? I'm guessing it's a symbol.
I always got the impression, I don't remember how or why, but talking about the ancient pagan religions, the pure pagans,
right,
not relating anything modern at all, that these idols that they had set up, that they thought that was actually their god. That's
the
further you go back,
they did.
they like that.
Okay. Yeah. So if that's what they believe, then you have a bigger problem on this, because if they actually believed that it was a god, so then why do they need to help it up? Okay, it's the same thing.
Moved down, it could have got up. Huh?
Hey, you bow down, you can get up. You do it your own. Leave me alone. What do I have to get involved with? This goes back to the story of Gideon. Remember from Gideon from the Judges, where Gideon took down the idol, and there was, I forget which idol it already was, Baal or one of these things, and they wanted to kill him for it, and so the father of Gideon says, let the God fight his own battles.
Yeah.
Let God fight his own, it's like today, now Baruch Hashem, as we all know, that Trump declared Israel to be the recognized capital of Israel. Fine. So I was called by the news media yesterday about that, and I said, it's after 70 years of we always thinking the capital, and for thousands years before, I'm glad that the president lived up to his campaign promise, unlike every other president, and did it. I'm happy with that. But I said there is a problem. You have fanatics out there. You have crazy fanatics who may strap themselves with bombs and start blowing people up. And I said, that's what the news media is going to pick up, because you have fanatics on both sides, but you have fanatics.
Because now he's enabling them.
Whatever. So I said any reason to blow up yourself and kill people is going to be used. But the ultimate response I want to say to all of these guys out there, all the fanatics who may be watching this, is let God fight his own battles. If you think that God doesn't want it, let God stop Trump from doing it. It shouldn't be you. I don't need to. God doesn't need my help to orchestrate history. And the problem is we always fight in the name of God when God is saying, I didn't give that command. Whoa, why are you using my name? Don't use my name. Use the truth. You want power. You want to create terror, so you're doing it on your own. You're blaming it on me. That's not very nice. That's what I say. If God really, if Dagon is God, or today, if God really is against what Trump is doing, I guarantee you it will not happen. But if God wants it to happen, it will happen, regardless of what anybody does. So that's the bottom line. So here you have to think of, if Dagon is really God in their minds, why do they have to pick it up? That's the question you have to ask. Okay, so let's go on, and again, the Malbim now looks at this and says, Nafal lefanav ratz limor kishneim amdu litzad. As I just said before, when I was saying they're originally side by side, he says they're both side by side. Shekeneged apetach ze etzel ze, which is opposite the door, one next to the other. V'im hayanofel al pi mikra. So if it would have fallen by accident, as im hayanofel al panav, if it would have fallen on his face, hayanofel el sad al apetach, it would have fallen onto the side of the door, on the face, Whoops, it would have fallen to the side of the door, right. Lo el lifnei ha'aron. It would not have fallen in front of the Aron. That didn't make sense. Sha'ama b'sida, because that was standing on the side. V'yema yenofel lifnei ha'aron. And so if it had fallen opposite in front of the Aron, hayamuchrach, shipol al tzado. So then you'd be forced to say that it fell on its side, not on his face. Right? Aval, you understand what he's saying? It's again, I'm right here. I'm like this. So if I'm falling to the side, I'll be like here. So I'll be on my side facing the Aron.
They were side by side.
Right, because if I'm going to, boom, like that. Yeah. If it falls this way, it's going to be here, towards the door, and not towards the Aron. So you can't have it both ways. So it says, but it says in reality, it says it fell in front of him. Hainu al panav, therefore it was on his face and not on his side. V'gam lifnei Aron Hashem, and also it would be in front of Hashem. El tzad Aron, lo el tzad patach, which would mean to the side of the Aron and not towards the door. Uvezer ra'u shelo nafal atzmo rak al pines. So in this, they saw that it did not fall by itself, but rather it fell due to a miracle. Uvecholzeh. And with all this, Pamarishon lo shatu leib, they didn't put their heart to that, even though they knew something was wrong. They didn't pay attention to it. Vayashuvu otolim komo. And so they brought it back to its place. Gamzeh mora kemoshe parash yishnasim imkomo. And even these words, he says, as I explained, show a travel from place to place. To another place, and that's why they had to return it to its place. Because if it was just, as some people say, that it just fell one way, they would have just said they re-erected it. Yeah. Why do you have to say it? Wow, it's falling badly now. Why do you have to say it went the other way? Why did they have to, they should have just said, right, he just vayakumu, he just set it back up. It shouldn't say, and he returned it to its place. You understand? So again, that is the power of looking at words. In other words, that's why I said this last week too. The words become very, very important here. What word did the author use? Did he say? In this case, he said vayashivu. And they returned it. They caused it to go back. They put it back in the place, and not as the Malbim should have said. If it didn't move, it just had to stand it back up. Vayekimuhu. Doesn't say vayekimuhu. They just would have
erected it.
They would just re-erect it. That's all. What do you mean move it? So it means move. It means that it changed position. Okay.
Interesting.
Again, that's the power of the words. Huh. And if you're just looking at it, how do they say it here? They returned it to its place. So again, people, unless you're very sensitive to language, you're not going to get it.
Right.
You have to be very sensitive to language.
Well, you'd have to, in other words, what you're saying is you'd have to understand the Hebrew word, why they used a certain Hebrew word, not a different.
Right.
You're just reading in English, you might not even.
You're not even going to think about it. They returned it to its place. Okay, fine. Yeah. You're not going to think about it. But again, the Malbim that's why when you're going through this, it takes so long to go through Tanakh or anything, because you have to get the background. What's really the problem? What was the author, or in the Torah, what was Hashem trying to get across? And Hashem is allowing these words to be written anyway, so ultimately, what's Hashem trying to tell us? So Dalit, Vayashkim b'boker, so they woke up the next morning, again, for the next morning, Dagon, no fail, the fun of Artsa. And once again, the Dagon had fallen on the ground to his face, lifnei Aron Hashem, before the Aron of Hashem, V'rosh Dagon, and this time it was a little different. The head of Dagon, Shtei kapav yadav, and his two hands. I guess this fish had hands. Okay? Krutod el miftan, so it was cut off at the threshold of the door. On the threshold, Rak Dagon, Mishar, only Dagon, was probably the body of Dagon, remained on it. Rak Dagon, Nishar Alav, right?
So what does that mean?
Well, the Dagon's trunk. Allah remained on it. 2
palms of his hands. What do you mean? Does it mean physically cut off from the thing?
Yeah. His head was cut off. His 2 hands were cut off. The other is left there is the body. Yeah. He broke it to pieces this time.
Trunk. So I'm visioning, he said hands, a fish. So it probably was a statue with a fish head with maybe like arms then.
Right.
So,
Has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be something like that. It must be in some god like
Well,
that.
it's like you see the Egyptian, with the
Head of some
wolf.
animal and the body of a man.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the Malbim explains, Hinei Dagon, behold Dagon, V'yom Acharat Hayineis Kaful. The next day there was a double miracle. One, Sheshach Chava Panovi El Sad Aaron. One, like the previous day, that it was lying on the ground face down in front of the Aaron, in front of the ark, like the first day. Number two, that the head, the two palms were cut off from the animal. Right, Lo El Sad Aaron, and that was not to the side of the Aaron. Uvezeh Ra'u Shetechila Nafal Amiftan, and from this they saw that it originally fell on the threshold. V'sham Nichratu Evarav, and there is when the limbs were cut off from it. V'achakach Husav Goma Al Lifnei Aaron, and then the body was turned towards the Aaron. Vayelezeh leval yitu shahaya milchama beno uben Aaron, and therefore they would not make the mistake that there was a fight between Dagon and between the ark. And therefore, as a result of that fight, that the Aaron and the Aaron's victory over it, that it had cut off the hands and the feet, just like a victor does. That's why the head and the hands were by the threshold. Lo el sad ha'aron, and not to the side of the Aaron, because that proved that those parts were cut off before from itself. And then afterwards cut off, so then it fell before the Aaron. So that's a double miracle.
Yeah.
Double miracle. You can't mistake this one. Therefore, Al Kain. So here we have a little bit of an interesting thing. Al Kain lo didruchu kahane dagon v'chol be'em beit dagon el miftan dagon. Basha. Therefore, as a result of this incident, the priests of Dagon and all who come into this temple of Dagon did not go through that threshold where Dagon was until this very day. So what happened? As of the writing of Shmuel Aleph. So the Malbim explains, "Alken ki chashvu she'al hamiftan haya Elohim hamanatzeach v'sham kara lefanav." They thought that it was at that point, that threshold, that their God was conquered, and there he bowed before him, but nagu kavod, makom Hashem. So they still gave kavod, honor, in that place. So since they thought that their God was defeated there, they didn't walk over that. It's such an interesting thing. It says, what does it say here? Oh, here. It says, he gives an interesting point. The Judaica Press, yeah. So he says, the presence of the severed parts of Dagon supposedly sanctified the threshold. They would therefore not tread upon it. The rabbis take Israel to task for showing greater respect for idols than the Gentiles. While the Philistines did not tread upon the threshold of Dagon for fear of defiling it, they performed no positive act of adoration, while the Israelites jumped over the threshold as a ritual of adoration to the idols. In that you have to go to Zephaniah, the prophet Zephaniah, for that. But here we're just seeing that they didn't cross over it, but it was just an interesting thing that's being picked on here. But nonetheless. Yes, everybody's good with that. So they killed. In other words, later on in history, apparently, the Jews would jump over the threshold so as not to, showing a greater amount of.
They don't want to step on it, you mean?
Yeah, it's showing a greater amount of
Whereas the Gentiles, they wouldn't even go close to it because they were afraid of it or something, or they thought it lost its power or something.
Right, they didn't tread upon it, so these guys would jump over it. Right?
They were claiming it sanctified the threshold, therefore they wouldn't even tread upon it.
Right, but the Jews are jumping over it. So
I'll get it.
yeah, we do a lot. We go the extra mile. What can I do? So, what is one thing that I could see it as a positive or a negative.
Yeah.
The positive is that we didn't want it. They were not treading over it. Fine, they weren't walking over it. We wouldn't even do that. We would we would basically avoid it by jumping over it. So they would have thought. I could see people thinking that's even more disrespect to jump over because I may land, I may not land there. Yeah. It's like step on a crack, break your brother's, break your mother's back, sort of thing. But and they're saying no. But on the other hand, the non-Jew would see this Jew jumping over it and say, "Wow, look at that respect."
He didn't want to step on it.
Right. So
that's a matter of perception.
So right, and that's perception is reality.
Yeah.
Let's face it, perception is reality, and that's the problem, because that's why we always are very careful for what we do.
That was in Trump's speech yesterday.
I didn't.
Perception is reality.
He said that too.
Oh.
I have to say,
said that too, I think.
he must have been watching my videos because I said that a long time.
So you got another follower.
That's it.
Yeah, about that this isn't changing policy. This is just
accepting reality.
Yeah.
Right. He said it's reality.
Yeah.
Right. Truth is, I have to say, his speech was not to get off on this all, but his speech was very nicely done. He had good speech writers for this.
Yeah.
I think he was. They were on target with everything they said. I'm sure the Palestinians aren't going to appreciate it. I'm sure the Arab.
Very measured.
Right. The Turkish already. I saw that too. The Turkish are very upset by this. I'm not sure what Turkey has to do with this, but okay, Turkish are very upset with it, and but it's a region, and the Pope was against it.
Ooh.
But this was an interest. Again, I know I don't want to get off on this, but I just have to make this comment, and it's 27 minutes into it. So who's ever watching, good luck to you. Okay. They were asking Kellyanne Conway. The news announcer was asking Kellyanne Conway about this policy that Trump was about to announce, and she was trying to defend it. And he said, everybody's against it. The other president, because she was saying President Clinton's agreed to this, Obama agreed to this, and the guy said, yeah, but they backed off. Why they back off? Not the point. No, it is the point. He said, they cited national security. And he said, and the Pope is against it. And so he said, the Pope is against it. So Kellyanne Conway is trying to keep saying, can I finish my sentence? She said, Kellyanne, it's pretty hard for both of us because we're both Catholics. It's pretty bad when the Pope comes out. What are you going to say about that, And then he dropped it. But I was thinking, why is the Pope against it? Does anybody know why the Pope's against it? The Pope is against it because the church said a long time ago that until the Jews accept Jesus as the Messiah, we will always be wandering. We will never be back in Israel. When we went back into Israel in 1948, their prophecy, very dangerous to prophesize, but their prophecy was proven false. Now, to get back Jerusalem, our ancient capital, that would be like putting a final nail in that coffin of that. So the Pope was, no, don't do that. That was purely political. That was purely coming from a religious political stance and saying that now we have nothing to say to the Jews. And there's a guy who's saying, no, we have to respect Jews, blah, blah, blah. No, that's where it's coming from. That's exactly where it was coming from. And I challenge anybody listening to prove me wrong on that one. But that was why he was against it. The other countries, they just don't want it because they're stubborn, that's all. Reality is, since we've been there, it's always been the capital. And that's why I applaud what he said. I really do. I applaud. I'm afraid of the the outcome of what the Michiganders are going to do over there. I mean, my daughter's here, so you know, we have a lot of people over there at this point. So I'm afraid for them. But we have to have we have to bitachon. We have to have faith in Hashem and trust that this is going to work out for us without any major problems. But that's what I'm saying. It's an amazing thing. But just get back to this. When we show more respect, it seems that we show respect to something by doing strange things, jumping or whatever we're going to do, that's when we're taken to task for it. Instead of the ultimate disrespect would have been to walk. Right? I walk over it. What do I care? It's an idol. What do I care about you?
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's why everybody's calling me. Okay, we'll have to stop here.